We're going in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what up, everyone? Tay here. And today I just wanted to do a kind of more fun theory talk video regarding Deadpool and Wolverine, and really just talk about some of the stuff that I didn't get a chance to cover in my initial trailer reaction video. So yeah, I think it'll be a fun one, talking about some theories and some different rumors regarding what could happen in Deadpool and Wolverine and how the movie could tie into Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars. So yeah, I hope you guys like it. But I should say right off the bat, since we're going to be talking about theories and a little bit, of some leaks and rumor stuff, there is definitely some high potential for spoilers for Deadpool 3. So if you are weary of spoilers, don't want to be tainted by any spoilery talk, you might want to back out on this one. And then also, lastly, don't forget to watch until the end of the video because there's a bunch of really good super thanks questions today. And I just wanted to say right off the bat, thank you to all you guys who left super thanks on the last video. Yeah, there's a bunch of good ones. So watch until the end of the video to when we get to that. And remember that if you would like to leave a super thanks with a question or a comment on this video, then I will read and respond to those in the next video. So yeah, I think that covers it. Let's get into it.
Why am I here?
Walk with me. Wade. You are special. This is your chance.
To be a hero among heroes.
Alright, so in Deadpool and Wolverine, we know from the trailer that Wade will be taken by the TVA early on in the movie so that they can try to recruit him for some kind of mission. But we don't know exactly what this mission is. We don't know the specific details on why exactly the TVA have sought out Wade. And we also know that at some point, Wade will be pruned and sent to the Void. So my questions regarding this are, what is specifically this TVA mission? And also, why does Wade end up getting pruned and sent to the Void, and is that on purpose? Because it could be that the TVA's mission for Wade is actually a mission that takes place in the Void, because there is something to do with his powers that makes him the right character for this job. And a theory that I've talked about in past videos is this theory that the Void could actually end up becoming the version of Battleworld for the MCU. And look, I know I've talked about this theory in a lot of past videos. I've been talking about it for forever. Ever since Loki Season 1 came out, I've been talking about this theory because even though there are other ways that Battleworld could be established in the MCU and other ways that it could work and make sense, the Void being Battleworld would just make so much sense to me because, for one, it's already been established, and also because the whole concept of what the Void is closely matches up with what Battleworld was in Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars comics. And one of the leaks/rumors that we've heard for a while now is that in Deadpool 3, it will be revealed that the TVA are saving heroes from across the multiverse and then sending those heroes to some kind of new or hidden world that will end up becoming Battleworld for the MCU and Battleworld for the Secret Wars movie. And we've also heard that this new world will somehow be hidden or impervious from the effects of the incursions. And I can't think of any other world or universe that's been established so far in the MCU that would be safe from the incursions. However, the Void would presumably be safe from the incursions because it exists outside of time. And for a while now, one of the other leaks/rumors that we've heard is that Deadpool 3 will somehow set up or introduce the setting for Battleworld for once we get to Avengers Secret Wars. And after the trailer dropped, I gotta say, this idea seems even more likely Because in the trailer, one of the big Easter eggs that was featured was this Secret Wars comic next to Wade in the final shot. And this is Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars number 5 from 2015 that features Doctor Doom's face on the cover. And I know I already talked about this comic in the last Deadpool video and that everyone else has already covered this topic to death as well. But I'm just bringing it up again real quick because this is a pretty significant Easter egg that could be hinting at some very big details, not only for Deadpool 3, but also for the Secret Wars movie. Because what happens in this issue of Secret Wars is it almost entirely revolves around Doctor Doom and Molecule Man as it shows flashbacks to what happened just before Secret Wars and how Doctor Doom was able to trick the Beyonders and then steal their powers so that he could use that to create Battleworld. So the main focus of this issue is to kind of give the reader a quick backstory on how Battleworld was created, as well as how Doctor Doom became a god. Now, like I discussed in the last video, it's possible that this could be an Easter egg that's hinting at Doctor Doom entering the MCU and somehow being involved in the multiverse saga and the upcoming Avengers movies. However, considering that this issue is also about the backstory of Battleworld, maybe one of the big things that this Easter egg is hinting at is that Deadpool and Wolverine will be the movie that sets up the backstory for Battleworld in the MCU, just like this issue did for Secret Wars in the comics, and just like we've been hearing for months now from these different leaks and rumors. So yeah, with all that said, considering that we know that the Void is going to be one of the main locations that we will see in Deadpool 3, maybe this theory about the Void being set up as Battleworld isn't that far-fetched. Maybe it's accurate, and that the TVA perhaps want to use the Void as a sort of safe haven world to bring these different multiversal heroes and characters to, so that they can survive the incursions and then help in the fight during the coming multiversal war. However, if the TVA are interested in using the Void, then the problem is that the Void is still inhabited by not only Alioth, but also various other villainous characters like these mutant marauders we've seen in the trailer. So maybe part of Wade's mission from the TVA is they are sending him into the Void to somehow take out Alioth, or maybe even take out Cassandra Nova. Because we know that Cassandra Nova is set to be one of the big villains that we'll see in the movie. And it looks like her character will be one of these mutants who is stuck inside of the Void, because in the one shot we see of Cassandra in the trailer, we can see that it looks like she is in the Void, kind of looking out from this big industrial structure, because we can see some of the same tank-like vehicles that we've seen in other parts of the trailer in front of her. So my guess is that Cassandra might actually be the leader of this mutant villain team we've seen, which we know will also include variants of past X-Men villains like Sabretooth, Toad, and Pyro. And if you don't know who Cassandra Nova is, in the comics, she was the evil twin sister of Charles Xavier. And like Xavier, she is very powerful and has very powerful psychic abilities. So she is definitely a character that is powerful enough to lead a team of mutant villains like these. And if the TVA are interested in using the Void for some reason, then Cassandra Nova's presence there could be a huge problem for them. Now, as far as Wade goes, at first it might not make a lot of sense that out of all the heroes in the multiverse, that the TVA would turn to Deadpool to send after a character as powerful as Cassandra Nova. Because as we know, Wade doesn't actually have any crazy superpowers like tons of other heroes throughout the Marvel multiverse. I mean, he is a very skilled martial artist and he has a lot of training in the military. And in the comics, he does have just slightly enhanced strength and reflexes and stuff like that. But really, Deadpool's main power is his regenerative healing abilities and that it's almost impossible for him to die. However, there are some attributes about Wade that might actually make him the perfect character to go up against someone like Cassandra Nova. Because in the comics, a side effect of Wade's healing abilities is that his brain is always in flux, and this makes him largely impervious to psychic attacks and mind control. Now, we have yet to see this come up regarding Wade in either of the first two Deadpool movies, but if in Deadpool 3 we find out that Wade is impervious to telepathy and mind control like he was in the comics, then this factor could make him a great candidate to go up against a powerful telepath such as Cassandra Nova, especially when placed on top of Wade being nearly unkillable. And what's interesting is that, like Deadpool, we also know that Wolverine has a very similar regenerative healing factor. And in the comics, Wolverine also has some resistance to psychic powers due to not only his healing factor, but also that his brain is basically protected by a layer of adamantium around his skull. So in the comics, this does give him a smaller degree of protection against psychic attacks. And based on what we've seen in the Deadpool 3 trailer, it looks like Wade will first meet this yellow-suited Wolverine while he is in the Void. So to me, this brings up the question of, why is Wolverine already in the Void, and how did he get there? Well, one possibility is maybe before the TVA recruited Wade, perhaps they recruited Wolverine for the same mission, but then he never returned from this mission, or the TVA abandoned him and never came and got him, or something like that. And maybe that is why Deadpool and Wolverine end up teaming up while they are in the Void, and maybe why Wade also ends up turning against the TVA. Because in the trailer, it looks like at first, Wade is pretty chummy with the TVA and he is working with them. But something must happen to change that, because in the trailer we also see these other shots of Wade just annihilating different TVA Minutemen. So perhaps what happens is, once Wade meets Wolverine, Wolverine tells him how the TVA abandoned him in the Void once he failed his mission, and this makes Wade distrust the TVA, or, you know, something like that. But anyways, I'm kind of getting off track, so let's get back to the actual details for what this mission could be, and also how this could potentially tie into Alioth and the coming multiversal war.
No. No. Nope, this is where we diverge from the dogma. That first variant encountered a creature created from all the tears in reality, capable of consuming time and space itself. A creature...
Alioth.
Bingo. I harnessed the beast's power and began experimenting on it.
I weaponized Alioth. And I ended the multiversal war.
Okay, so something that I've really wanted to talk about for a while now is just how important Alioth could end up being to what's going to happen in Deadpool 3 and the rest of the multiverse saga up to Secret Wars. Because as we saw in that clip I just showed from Loki Season 1, He Who Remains said that Alioth was the key to him winning the previous multiversal war and defeating all of the other Kang variants. And ever since the end of Loki Season 2, we know that a big part of the TVA's new goals is to keep an eye on all the different Kang variants out there, and also to plan for the potential next multiversal war, which was heavily hinted at in the Loki Season 2 finale. Now, according to He Who Remains, Alioth is a temporal entity who was created from all of the tears in space-time during the last multiversal war. And he also says that Alioth is capable of consuming time and space itself.
Capable of consuming time and space itself.
Now, so far in the MCU, we've only seen Alioth consume people and structures that have been sent to the Void. But if Alioth is capable of consuming time and space itself, then this makes Alioth extremely powerful, and that Alioth may actually be able of consuming entire timelines and universes. And, maybe that's how He Who Remains won the previous multiversal war. because He Who Remains even says that once he was able to capture Alioth, that is what gave him the power to win the multiversal war. And now that He Who Remains is dead, and with the TVA trying to prepare for the next multiversal war, one would think that one of the TVA's top priorities would be capturing and containing Alioth. Because if Alioth is how He Remains won the last multiversal war, then Alioth is far too powerful to just leave in the void where some other Kang variant or some other villain could potentially come along and gain control over him again like He Who Remains did in the past. So I can't help but wonder if that could somehow tie into the plot of Deadpool and Wolverine. Because we haven't really seen Alioth much since Loki Season 1. I mean, we did see the glow of Alioth approaching Ravonna when she was sent to the Void at the end of Loki Season 2, and then we also very briefly see a glimpse of Alioth again in the Deadpool 3 trailer.
God, please! Oh my!
Now, yeah, even though it's only a split second, that undeniably appears to be Alioth right there taking that agent. And something I've wondered about since seeing the trailer is how are Sabretooth and Pyro and all of these different mutant villains able to survive and seemingly move freely around the Void without being devoured by Alioth if Alioth is still actively in the Void and stalking people? And I think there's a few different possibilities of what could explain that. And one possibility is maybe this mutant marauder team is actually feeding people to Alioth, people that they capture, almost like sacrifices, so that Alioth will leave them alone. However, another possibility that might be more likely is that they could be using some kind of Alioth deterrent. Because something you'll notice from the different set photos we've seen is that some of these vehicles, like this big tank that we see Sabretooth driving in the Void, has a bunch of panels and a satellite dish looking thing sticking off the top. So perhaps these different panels and whatnot that we see on these vehicles are there to somehow block their signal from Alioth or to deter Alioth or something so that they can travel across the Void freely without being detected. However, there is one other thing that I've wondered about as well, and that is if maybe Cassandra Nova could perhaps be helping to repel Alioth from their location, and that Cassandra might even be trying to take control of Alioth and use its power for herself. Because if we go back to what happened in Loki Season 1, in I think it was episode number 5, we saw Loki and Sylvie combine their powers to enchant Alioth and then open the gateway to the Citadel at the end of time. So if Alioth was susceptible to mind control enchantment from Sylvie and Loki, then what's to say that Alioth would not also be susceptible to the powers of Cassandra Nova as well? Because Cassandra has basically all of the same telepathic powers of Charles Xavier and then some. Because she also has other powers, including telekinesis and also astral projection and possession. So one possibility is that Cassandra could be using her powers to somehow block Alioth and keep herself and these different mutant villains we've seen off his radar. But another, more fantastical possibility is maybe Cassandra can actually use her telepathic or astral powers to actually possess or control Alioth. Which, if something like that was happening, then that would make Cassandra extremely dangerous and a threat to the entire multiverse, because if she was able to control Alioth and then she somehow got free of the Void, she could use that power to take over the multiverse or destroy other universes or whatever. So another kind of crazy theory spin on this whole thing is that maybe this could tie into the TVA's mission for Wade. Maybe they have sent Wade into the Void to either take out Cassandra Nova or maybe to even incapacitate or capture Alioth. Because, like I said, with Alioth still free and roaming around the Void, One would think that capturing him would be one of the TVA's top priorities, because they would know that if some villainous character were to somehow take control of Alioth like He Who Remains did in the past, that they could then use Alioth to either rule or destroy the multiverse. And considering that Wade can't really die, that might make him the perfect person to send into the void to capture Alioth. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Wade doesn't have any crazy superpowers, so if something like this was the case, then I would imagine that the TVA would probably send some kind of temporal technology with him so that he could use that to somehow encapsulate or hold Alioth or capture him or whatever. But going back to the whole Cassandra Nova Alioth thing, if there is anything to that theory that Cassandra might somehow be involved with Alioth or trying to control him, or that Cassandra is just somehow a part of Wade's mission from the TVA, then Wade could also be the perfect character to deal with her as well, because like I said, he is impervious to telepathic attacks, so Cassandra presumably wouldn't be able to mind control him like she would most other characters. Now again, these are just a few different theories on what Wade's mission might be in the movie and how Alioth and Cassandra Nova could potentially tie into that. And, I'm not saying that it would be all these things. These are just a few different possibilities, and maybe there could be elements of different stuff I'm talking about kind of tied in there, but not everything. And once we get another trailer, a full story trailer for Deadpool 3, I'm sure we'll get a lot more details on what to expect from the plot of the movie, and that, of course, with that will come a lot of hints and details we can decipher on what will happen in the film. And surprisingly, it looks like another trailer might be coming sooner than we think, because I thought it would be probably another 6 weeks or 2 months or so until we got a full story trailer for Deadpool 3. But according to reports from Cryptic HD on Twitter, who's a good source when it comes to this stuff, another Deadpool and Wolverine trailer is all finished up and edited and ready to go and will probably release sooner than we think. But at this point, these are just a few theories I think could definitely have some level of accuracy to them, especially considering that it's repeatedly been reported that Deadpool 3 will basically act as one of the big prelude movies that sets up Avengers Secret Wars. Which, on that note, let's go back to the theory that the Void could end up becoming the MCU version of Battleworld for the Secret Wars movie. Because what I've said in the past is that the only thing stopping the Void from becoming Battleworld is presumably Alioth. Because we know that as we get closer and closer to Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars, that the incursions are going to become more and more of a problem as they start to destroy universes throughout the multiverse. And I think that the incursions will probably somehow factor into the plot of several upcoming MCU movies, including Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as probably Doctor Strange 3 and maybe even the Fantastic Four, and then also, of course, the upcoming Avengers movies. And if Alioth was no longer in the Void, if the TVA were able to somehow capture Alioth so he was no longer in the Void, then the TVA could then actually use the Void as a sort of safe haven or an ark to save these different heroes from the incursions. That if an incursion was coming for certain universes, that the TVA could actually then prune those characters as a way to save them from that incursion. And like I mentioned earlier, for months now, there's been these different leaks and rumors that the TVA will be saving various multiversal heroes from incursions to prepare for the coming multiversal war, and that there will be some kind of new world involved where these multiversal heroes will be sent. And again, I can't say for sure that this world will end up being the Void, because there are definitely other routes that Marvel Studios could take in that regard. But the Void would just make so much sense because the TVA already know about it and have access to it, and it's already been established in the MCU, and like I said, it's a very similar concept to what Battleworld was in the comics. Plus, like I mentioned, the Void is the one place that we know of that would likely be safe from the incursions because it exists outside of time. And another important detail that we've heard regarding this whole plotline with the TVA saving these heroes from across the multiverse is that it will be something that is revealed and set up in Deadpool 3 and that it will then continue on in other different upcoming multiverse-themed projects. So if this theory does end up being accurate, and the Void is being set up to be Battleworld, then it's pretty easy to see how that could possibly fit into the plot of Deadpool 3, especially since we know that a good chunk of that movie will actually take place in the Void. And this could also go back to the whole theory I was talking about that Alioth could somehow fit into the plot of Deadpool 3. Because, like I said, we already know that Alioth will show up in the movie because we saw that short glimpse of him in the trailer. Maybe a part of the TVA's mission for Wade is they are sending him into the Void to somehow capture Alioth so that they can then get Alioth out of the Void and start using it as a location to send these different heroes they are saving from incursions throughout the multiverse. And with Alioth being the entity that He Who Remains used to win the last multiversal war, it would also just make sense that the TVA would want to gain control over Alioth no matter what, so that if another multiversal war happens, they have that power instead of it falling into the hands of some other villain. And while I was working on this video, some other news just dropped that I figured I should at least just quickly touch on. And that is that The Hollywood Reporter just reported that Avengers 5 will not be titled Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. Now, The Hollywood Reporter also mentioned this back in December, but they reported on it as something that Marvel Studios were thinking about. And it appears that they are now reporting that this is confirmed and that the movie will be titled something else that will be announced at a later date, most likely at Comic-Con or D23 later this summer. And the other thing that they also reported on in this article is that Kang's role in the upcoming Avengers films will either be minimized or taken out of the story completely, and that some other villain will take Kang's place as the main villain of those movies. Now, if Marvel Studios are looking to replace Kang as the big overarching villain of the multiverse saga, then I really doubt that they will remove the Kang story altogether, because there are still a few loose threads that should ideally be tied up. And the big one, of course, being what's happening with the Council of Kangs after that post-credit scene in Ant-Man Quantumania. So even though it sounds like Marvel Studios are kind of, steering away from the Kang story, I really doubt that they are just going to drop it all together and that we will never see any other Kang variants appear again throughout the remainder of the multiverse saga. I think that they probably will recast Kang with someone else, or maybe even multiple people, just as a way to kind of tie up that story. And that could happen in the upcoming Avengers movies, or maybe they could even tie that up in some other movie coming up, like maybe Doctor Strange 3 or something like that. And I also should just say that I don't think that this is going to change the overall plans for the multiverse saga. I think it just means that the Secret Wars story will basically take place over 2 Avengers movies, and that the Kangs just won't be as big a part of that as originally planned. And I'm sure I'll touch more on this in a future video and discuss it further, especially as we get more news. But since this news just dropped, I figured I should at least mention it before we wrap everything up. So on that note, let's actually do that now, because I think I'm all finished with the main section of today's video. But don't go anywhere just yet, because we still have several Super Thanks questions to respond to, a few of which are actually questions about Deadpool 3 and the Avengers movies. So we're not done quite yet, so don't go anywhere, and let's get to those.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump into these Super Thanks questions. And the first 2 we have are $5 from Paul Sanford and also $5 from Gator Chris. Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you very much, Chris. You know I appreciate you guys. And then the first question we have is $5 from Yo IMO. And this one says, did you happen to notice the bottle next to the Secret Wars comic is the bottle from The Incredible Hulk, the drink that Stan Lee drank with Bruce's blood in it? And yeah, I didn't notice that when I first watched the trailer, but I of course did pick it up later. And I think that's probably just a fun Easter egg and doesn't hold the same significance as the Secret Wars comic does. But I think that Deadpool 3, considering that we know some portion of the movie will take place in the Void, and then that the rest of the movie is going to take place in all these different multiversal timelines, many of which look like they will be from past MCU films and past Fox films, that this is going to make Deadpool 3 just filled with crazy Easter eggs, probably more than we've seen in any past MCU project. So yeah, I think we'll have our work cut out for us finding all those Easter eggs once the movie comes out. So yeah, thank you very much for that one. And then the next one we have is 5 from Jeffrey. And this one says, yes, Tay, my G. This vid was mad hype. Got me so excited for what's to come. What was awesome about this was I could hear you were excited too. Are you going to see Madam Web? I'm joining in with the banter with heavy spoilers in not taking this seriously. Plus there's some hotties in there, lol. Anyway, would you like to review or do a vid on the Sony Spider-Verse, or is it a waste of time? Haha, stay super bro. Alright, thank you very much, Jeffrey. And yeah, I did actually see Madam Web. It's funny, I had no plans to see it, but then it was getting such horrendous views online, and I was out and about doing stuff, and I was by the theater, and I had some time to kill, so I thought, I'm gonna go see it because I want to see if it really is as bad as everyone is saying it is. And in like the first half hour of the movie, I was like, yeah, this is pretty bad, but it's not awful. I'm entertained. But then after that, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's just so meandering and pointless. It just feels like they could have made it into like a 45-minute TV movie or something. It's way too long, and it's not even that long. It's just really bad. So yeah, I think the Sony Spider-Verse is totally dead. I think the only thing that Sony should continue on with is the animated stuff with the Beyond the Spider-Verse and all that. But I don't know what they are thinking with these live-action Spider-Verse movies they're making because they're all so bad. So yeah, that's my little tangent on that. Thank you very much for the super thanks, Jeffrey. And then the next one we have is $10 from Unfortunate Inc. And this one actually doesn't have a question. It just says, always a dopamine rush when KindaCulty drops a vid. Thank you very much for that, Unfortunate Inc. Really appreciate it. And then the last one we have is $21 from D Walker, and this one says, what up, Tay? That Deadpool and Wolverine trailer looked awesome. I wonder what the actual consequences from this film moving forward will be, and where we are going to see Deadpool again after this before Secret Wars. Thank you for the great work, by far my favorite MCU content. Awesome. Thank you very much, D Walker. And I think there's a good chance that Marvel Studios are planning on putting Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in Avengers 5, and that both Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Deadpool will show up in Avengers Secret Wars. But I'm honestly not sure if Deadpool is going to have any kind of major role in any other upcoming projects besides that, because I'm just not sure how he would fit into anything else that Marvel Studios have planned in the multiverse saga. And I'm sure that once the multiverse saga is over, Marvel Studios will hopefully try to do a Deadpool 4 and, do some news story. But yeah, I think that Marvel Studios probably have big plans for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in the remainder of the multiverse saga after Deadpool 3, but it is a little trickier to figure out what they're going to do with Deadpool after Deadpool 3 and how he will fit into everything else. So yeah, I hope that's a good answer to your question. And again, we'll be talking a lot about Deadpool 3 over the next few months as we get closer and closer to the movie. But yeah, I think this movie is going to have huge consequences for what's going to happen in the rest of the multiverse saga, and especially the upcoming Avengers movies. So yeah, thank you very much for all those super thanks questions, everyone. I really appreciate it. And remember, if you would like to leave a super thanks with a question or a comment on this video, that I will read and respond to those in the next video. And yeah, if you guys are new to the channel and you like this video, you should definitely subscribe, especially if you're a fan of Marvel and the MCU and comic book movies and all that. And definitely come follow the channel on Twitter for updates or when I'm dropping a video, or just if you want to come say what's up or hit me up, send me a topic request, all that. And if you missed any of the other recent videos, you should definitely check those out, and they are linked in the description down below. But anyways, I think that covers everything for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will be back soon.